You're listening to The Stephen Tauriello Show, building a platform of liberty for people in search of truth with a dash of hope and a life worth living. The Stephen Tauriello Show. And now, here's Stephen.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. As always, thank you for tuning in. Drugs have been discovered not once, but 3 times at the Biden's White House since 2022. Lauren Boebert reveals after a Secret Service briefing. My. What the hell is going on over there? They've turned the White House into like a trap house, man. Like, does this not hit at the core of the problem we've all been experiencing? Like, we were told that a vote for Biden was a vote for normalcy. We were told that it was time to put the adults back in office. I remember this clearly because I had a lot of acquaintances that said and posted a lot of stuff on social media saying how, Donald Trump was an experiment and it's time to put this experiment and just accept that it was a failure and move on. And it's time to put the adults back in office. It's time to have some normalcy back in this country. Like, this is normal to people? Like, this can't be normal. This can't be. This certainly isn't the norms we're used to. I mean, they may want this to be the new normal, where you got, dudes flashing their fake tits on the South Lawn during a Pride event. And now you got cocaine stashed in cubbies at the White House. And then we find out not once, but 3 times. This is not normal stuff. This is not normal behavior from a White House. And so it's just shocking how this is not a bigger deal. And this really hits at the core to a lot of things, mainly the cover-ups. The amount of protection the entire system is running for the Biden family is astronomical. I guarantee you, if the shoes were on the other foot and there was cocaine found in the Trump's White House, they'd impeach him. They'd demand drug screens. They would be figuring out every way they could to get him and his family out of that White House. I mean, I would say they'd probably go, there's no extent that they wouldn't be willing to go in order for them to weaponize cocaine being found in the White House. Whatever law they can invoke, the 25th Amendment, who knows? But certainly we'd be getting a lot more than this. This is a straight up cover-up, folks. This is a straight cover-up from the Secret Service, the FBI, Capitol Police, whoever's involved over there at the White House. The entire damn system runs cover for this family. And I got the receipts to show you. So in a not-so-surprising revelation following a Secret Service briefing on Thursday, Republican Representative Lauren Boebert announced that cocaine discovered at the White House on July 2nd was not the first incident of drugs found at the Biden's White House, citing 2 other instances within the last year. The Gateway pundit reported earlier that Secret Service had announced the conclusion of its investigation into the recent cocaine discovery at the White House. Despite having narrowed down a list of 500 potential individuals, no suspects have been officially identified. And as of right now, they've officially closed down the Secret Service probe into the cocaine investigation. So there's no more investigating. There's no more. It's done. Now everyone just needs to forget about it and move on. We will never find out who smuggled in a white powdery substance and stashed it inside the White House. Does anyone see how this is a problem? How somebody was able to screw the cocaine, the illicit drugs. Screw that. I'm talking about how in the world was there a white powdery substance smuggled into the White House and stashed in a cubbyhole? That draws some serious questions as far as security. This should be a way bigger deal than what it is. But because it was during the Biden administration, because it's somebody in his cabinet, somebody that was in that White House, it's nothing to see here. Time to move on. We know it's the only time cocaine's ever been found in the White House. We know it's the only time a white powdery substance has ever been found in the White House. But just move on. Forget about it. It's just so incredible, man. So interestingly, the investigation has ended without administering drug tests to these individuals, a decision that has sparked further controversy and calls for transparency. We will never get transparency out of this administration. Never. We will never get transparency from the DOJ. We will never get transparency from the White House. Forget it. You're on your own. They do whatever they want. They are accountable to nobody. They have to answer to nobody. These people are high on their own shit, man. And they do not care what anybody says or does. They will do what they want. They will look you in the eye and say, yeah, what are you going to do about it? And this is what they're doing. I mean, they do blatant illegal shit whenever they want, and nobody's held accountable. This goes to the deeper root of the problem, and which is why I wanted to start the show out with this story, was the Democrat Party. Anybody that does not like Trump is willing to allow all this insanity just to claim normalcy, just to affirm to their confirmation bias that Donald Trump was the abnormal administration, the Trump presidency was the abnormal one, and this is the normal one. I mean, we are dealing with serious denialism here. And I mean, this is where it goes. This is how deep it goes. This is why I wanted to do it. It goes to something a lot deeper. I'm trying to put my finger on it. It's a psychological disorder that we have. It's a social contagion with people with Trump derangement syndrome. People that hate Trump, people that are willing to abandon all their principles, all their morals, people that are willing to lie to themselves and lie to others just to claim that Joe Biden is better than Donald Trump. This is where all the destruction is coming from. And so when a white powdery substance gets snuck in to the White House and left and stored in a cubbyhole in the West Wing or the presidential library, who knows? We don't even know that because they're not giving us any answers. Nobody knows. But they're willing to deny that being a problem just so they can affirm that the Biden administration is the normal one and the Trump presidency was the abnormal one. This is how destructive this social contagion has been. And this is, like I said, this is just one instance. This goes much, much deeper into a lot of other avenues that we're witnessing. As far as Democrats used to say secure borders were good. But because Donald Trump wanted to secure the borders and build a wall, now we just should have open borders. Okay, the complete opposite. All the policies that Donald Trump put in place were reversed in the first weeks and months of the Biden administration, even though they were good policies. They were solid policies, not with just the border, with everything. With everything. They reversed everything. And because of that, because of their extreme hatred for Donald Trump, they had to do all the bad stuff. And the Democrat Party has to say it's actually good in order for them not to admit that Donald Trump actually enacted a good policy or Donald Trump actually did a good thing. And so this is the social contagion we're dealing with. This is the culmination of just extreme denialism. Not everything Donald Trump did it's an impossibility that everything Donald Trump did was bad. I mean, I'm sorry, but even a broken clock is right twice a day. And so, but the problem is they gaslight themselves in order for them to confirm their bias of Donald Trump being a bad person, being an evil tyrant. And so they're willing to just ignore all these crazy freaking things, man. They're willing to ignore any crime committed. They're willing to ignore any abnormality like cocaine in the White House and dudes shaking their tits on the South Lawn during a Pride event. They're willing to ignore the American flag being flanked by a Pride flag. This is the kind of stuff we're watching. And unfortunately, it's causing a lot of damage. You know what they could have did? Biden could have got in the White House, okay, won the presidency, and if he really wanted to be a unifying president, like he claimed he wanted to be, like he lied to everybody and said he was going to be, he could have came in and said, you know what, we're going to leave the border policy in place. This is a great border. The border has never been this secure. I mean, just based off statistical numbers and facts, the border is more secure now than it ever has been. So we're going to keep those policies in place. We don't think this policy was really good, so we're going to amend that, and we're going to work on that and change a few things. This foreign policy, the Abraham Accords, these were good policies, so we're going to go ahead and leave that. No, they actually did the opposite of everything, even though their actions were damaging. And so this is where we're at. This is just another example. So on Thursday, Lauren Boebert, a member of the House Oversight Committee, attended a briefing to get answers from the Secret Service about the bag of cocaine found at the White House near the Oval Office. And so she had to go into a skiff to get this information. This is how crooked this administration is. They have the entire system willing to circle the wagons to protect Joe Biden. The entire system, they are willing to destroy the entire system just to protect Joe Biden. They're willing to destroy their dignity. They're willing to destroy their pride. They're willing to destroy their honesty, integrity, their transparency, their trust, all just to protect Joe Biden. All just to affirm their confirmation bias that Donald Trump was bad and Joe Biden is good. This is where all the damage is coming from. So Lauren Boebert says, quote, I was informed in this morning's skiff meeting the cocaine culprit investigation will be terminated with more than 500 potential perpetrators remaining. We cannot allow this to happen. The American people deserve to know who smuggled in cocaine into the White House, Boebert wrote the following briefing. According to John Solomon over there at Just the News, Boebert claimed that this wasn't the first drug discovery on the White House grounds in recent times. She cited 2 other instances from the past year in which marijuana was found, a fact that she argued was not adequately reported or addressed. I didn't hear about that. Did anybody hear about marijuana being found on the White House grounds? I mean, I get it, marijuana, okay, dude, like big freaking deal. I mean, you shouldn't be having drugs, illegal drugs. I don't think marijuana is legal in D.C. Either way, you shouldn't just have bags of pot in the White House. Like, what the hell is going on here? And you certainly shouldn't have cocaine, illegal drugs like cocaine. What's next, meth? What are they having, big blow parties over there at the White House? Like I said, it's like they turned the White House into a trap house. Next thing you know, Hunter Biden's drug dealers are going to be rolling in and out of there. I mean, this is crazy to think that this is normal. These recent revelations and the closure of the investigation without identifying a suspect have further proved the corruption under the Biden regime. Yep. You got it, Lauren Boebert. She's great, man. She's a fighter. She's one of the handful of actual real conservatives we have in Congress that are willing to actually fight. And she's straight up honest about it. She says, look, I don't even know how long I'm going to be here. I may be voted out next election, so I'm going to try and get as much done as I can. And so, look, I like to hear that. I like people that are there knowing that they may not be there forever. The worst thing that you can have is a politician that gets elected, and their main goal is to stay there indefinitely. That is the problem we have right now in our current politics. People go in there, and the lifestyle is so good. It is so luxurious and lavish that they want to stay there forever. They like it. I mean, not just the money part, but the power part as well. We've turned these people into celebrities, man. And so, it's a matter of time before they become corrupted. And my biggest thing is now, instead of them working for the people, instead of them making decisions to benefit the people, they're going to start making decisions that benefit them. And that is a big problem that we have. And so that's why I say term limits. But again, term limits are complicated because there's going to have to be a lot of regulations in place when it comes to that. But it's definitely a conversation I think we need to start having. And I mean, there's no doubt that corruption has completely flooded our government. There's just no doubt about it. I read today there's over 2 million government employees. 2 million. And I don't even think that includes the FBI. I don't think that includes any of the Justice Department officials. So you're talking over 2 million people that are working inside our government. And when you look, what's crazy, I noticed this yesterday when I was watching the Chris Wray hearings, which is amazing, by the way. If you haven't heard, go watch those hearings. It's incredible. I may even leave the Rumble video in my podcast description. It's an amazing thing. I mean, Chris Wray absolutely gets his ass handed to him. But I feel like there was a lot of missed opportunities on both sides. There was a lot of missed opportunities from the conservatives to actually get real answers. I feel like we walked away with nothing. I was actually more pissed off after the hearing than I was before the hearing. And I have more questions now than I did. And then Chris Wray had some missed opportunities on actually explaining to the American people the importance of a lot of these things. Like, why is it important that we have things like the FISA court? Like, why is that important? I personally think it's awful. But Chris Wray, for him just to just treat everybody like a child is what he was doing, essentially. Like, he was, I'm sorry, that's classified information. We can, and then he goes on to explain why it's classified and what classified means. Like, no, dude, we know what it means. But, like, what can you tell us? The guy, we got no answers from the guy yesterday. And to me, that's unacceptable. It is unacceptable. The Constitution and Congress was here well before the FBI. Okay, the FBI answers to Congress. Congress answers to us. And so for these people at the FBI and the DOJ and the CIA, for these people just to be blatantly just classifying whatever they want, for them not to answer any questions or get the sudden case of amnesia, that's unacceptable. This is the mindset that we need to change within our justice system. And so if they're not going to completely dismantle the FBI, which I say they should, if they're not going to completely dismantle it, I mean, we need major reforms. And it's not just policy reforms. We need the mindset reformed. Because right now, the mindset in the FBI is we will do whatever we want. We answer to nobody. And how dare you ask us any questions? That's the mindset that they have right now. And that's what they've had for, I don't know, 8, 9 years, 10 years. I mean, look at Russia collusion. Nobody was fired for the Russia collusion hoax. Nobody. Nobody was held accountable for any of it. And so it's no wonder why these 3-letter agencies keep doing what they're doing. Same thing with the CDC and NIAID. And all the other, NIH, all the other people, all the other agencies that have never been held accountable for any of the mistakes they made. Mistakes with COVID, mistakes with the vaccine mandates, mistakes with the mask mandates, mistakes with the Russia collusion hoax, the investigations, the fake impeachments, the fake, everything. All of it. The spying on a presidential campaign and then later spying on a presidency. Like, nobody was held accountable for any of it. And so, what do you think they're going to do? They're just going to keep doing it. And so the mindset needs reformed in the FBI. We need to change the mindset in the FBI. How you do that, I have no idea. But I would imagine it all starts with the director, like Chris Wray. This is not a good job for him. And once again, Donald Trump. This is a Donald Trump appointee. This was that huge blind spot that Donald Trump had during his presidency when it came to who he surrounded himself with and who he appointed in different institutions and different departments. Chris Wray is one of them. An awful appointee. I mean, I had faith a little bit, but when you're talking about all this Twitter, the Twitter files, the whole Twitter saga, all that went down on Chris Wray's watch. The 2020 election on Chris Wray's watch. All these things have went down on this guy's watch, and he's accountable to none of it. Not only is he not accountable, but he feels like he doesn't even have to answer for his mistakes. In fact, he doesn't even think he made a mistake. He blames it on other people. And so this is like I said, the mindset needs to change at the FBI. We need an FBI that's old school, man. Bank robbers, money laundering, mobsters, not Trump supporters, not parents at school board meetings. They got over 1 million illegal warrants from the FISA courts. And that's why I say the FISA program, section, I think, what is it? Is it section 270? What is the FISA program? So the FISA court stands for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, often referred to as the FISA court. It is a specialized U.S. federal court established by the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978. The court's primary role is to oversee requests for surveillance warrants against foreign intelligence targets inside the United States. Yeah, no, this is... How 1 million illegal warrants were issued by this FISA court, and they want to renew this thing? When you had 1 million warrants that were issued against Americans that were illegal, This is a big problem. The FISA court operates in secret, and its proceedings are classified. Like, that's an issue to me. That, to me, is unacceptable. That is just waiting to be corrupted if it's not already corrupted. Like, that to me sounds so un-American, it's not even funny. The FISA court operates in secret, and its proceedings are classified? So are we talking about a secret judge, secret prosecutors, secret grand juries? I mean, you don't even know that these people are targeting you. Like, if that's not a complete violation of the Fourth Amendment, I don't know what is. So typically the Federal Bureau of Investigation or other intelligence agencies to obtain surveillance warrants for collecting information on foreign agents or entities suspected of engaging in espionage or terrorism. This is the same program they used to spy on Donald Trump's campaign, the FISA court. You guys remember that? They got an illegal FISA warrant to surveil a presidential campaign under Barack Obama's watch. This is what I don't get. And this is something the House Oversight Committee is going to have to explain this one to me. How in the world has Barack Obama not been pulled in there to testify under oath? How is this man, out of all the things they have done to a former president, Barack Obama is the only one that they have not talked about? They haven't asked to come in. They haven't asked for testimony. They haven't asked for anything. When all this stuff happened on his watch, not Joe Biden's watch, Barack Obama's watch. The illegal spying, the illegal FISA courts, the FISA warrants, all of it. All of this was put forth during Barack Obama's watch, and I would have to say he knew about it, if didn't orchestrate the entire thing. And so how is this guy managing to escape any kind of accountability? They need to pull his ass in there and start doing some testimony. You know, this is bullshit that Donald Trump is the only former president that's going to get railroaded like this. And what? Barack Obama's somehow untouchable? They act like Donald Trump was never president. This is, and again, this goes to the core of this goes to the heart of the entire mindset with the Democrat Party, is they think he was an illegitimate president. They are the OG election deniers. They were denying elections before denying elections was even cool. Like, they were back there, they were denying elections all the way back to the Bush v. Gore election. They have been denying every single election they've lost since then. And so all this is because they think Donald Trump's an illegitimate president. That's what this is. But they think Barack Obama was a legit president. So therefore, Barack Obama's untouchable, but Donald Trump can get SWAT raided, indicted, persecuted, railroaded. And if they could, they would want to see him die in prison. That is what they want, ladies and gentlemen. They're trying to get this guy in prison for the rest of his life. Therefore, they want him to die in prison. These people are sick. There is something wrong with them. And this strikes at the core of the overall issue with the mindset of the Democrat Party. The entire thing, the social contagion and everything, their mindset is just, it's warped. It's rotten. And it's like a cancer. It spreads everywhere it goes. The media, intel agencies, the Justice Department, everywhere. Other countries. You guys remember the big baby Trump, the balloon, the big baby balloon Trump that the big baby Trump balloon they would fly in parades? Like, these people are sick, man. They are sick. Like, they act like a bunch of children. And so with this whole FISA court, this thing needs to go. Get rid of the FISA court. I say drop that stuff altogether. The entire FBI needs dismantled. If it's me, I'm dismantling the FBI. Why not? Why not? That's what you got to do sometimes. Sometimes things just, they don't work. And they go good for a while, and sometimes you just got to knock it all down and start from scratch. I mean, why is it that we cannot abandon any of these government programs? None of them. The NIH, NIAID, CDC, all the other government agencies. Why is it that these government agencies can never fail, no matter how bad they are? So again, sometimes you just got to knock it down and just start from scratch. And that's exactly what they should do with the FBI. Dismantle the whole damn thing. I mean, these people want a brand new building that's bigger than the Pentagon. Are you for real? These people are so brazenly corrupt that they don't even, they have no self-awareness of what they're doing. They think they can do all this stuff illegally with 1 million illegal spy warrants on Americans, spying on presidential campaigns and presidencies, SWAT raiding former presidents, SWAT raiding pro-life activists, like all these things that they have done. I mean, there is a laundry list of corrupt stuff the FBI has done in the last 5, 6 years, 8 years. And they want a brand new building with like a $40 billion budget increase? No. Absolutely not. And the FISA system, the FISA court needs to go. No secret courts with secret judges and secret prosecutors. No. That is begging for corruption. That is begging for weaponization. That is exactly what that is. And I think it's already happened. And so therefore the FBI needs completely dismantled, rebuilt. The problem is if whoever it is that dismantles it and rebuilds it, the other side's not going to trust it. That's where we are that's the environment we're in right now. So if Republicans dismantle it and rebuild it, then the Democrats aren't going to trust the FBI or whatever the new name is called. The FBI used to be doing what they're doing now to Republicans. They used to do to the left back in the 60s and 70s. Yeah, targeting activists, protesters, spying, wiretapping, undercover informants, all of it. They used to do the exact same thing to the left back in the 60s and 70s. And so that's why I'm shocked how all of a sudden the Democrat Party, it's like we switched sides. Now it's the Democrats that are pro-federal police. It's the Democrats that are pro-war. I mean, it's just completely wild. And so again, dismantle the FBI, get rid of the FISA courts, no money, no new building, lay it all down, and bring Barack Obama in for testimony. That's what I say. So, all right, moving on. We got a whole lot to get to. And think about all that stemmed from the White House, cocaine in the White House. The cocaine's irrelevant. This is the white powdery substance that managed to get smuggled into the White House with no footage, no photos, no witnesses, no nothing. It's just wad it up and throw it in the trash. Everyone forget about it, move on. Wild. We have deep, deep corruption in our government right now, ladies and gentlemen. It is systemic, it is deep, and it is bad. Very bad. And that brings me to my next point. So you guys remember how I'm always saying that nothing is what you think it is. Nothing. And one of my biggest things that I point to is the war in Ukraine. How they're always saying that the war in Ukraine's about freedom and democracy. It's not, ladies and gentlemen. It's just not. Nothing they tell you is the truth. We have learned this over and over and over again. And what's really shocking is the more things that come out, the more the corruption comes out, so does the reality that we wouldn't know about any of this corruption going on in this government if the Republicans lost the House in 2022. Is that not mind-blowing to think about? That these people would have just swept all this under the rug and certainly tried. They do not give a shit about any of the stuff that is happening right now with the weaponization, whistleblowers, none of it. The corruption in the Biden family, the briberies, the scandals, they don't care about any of it. And so it's shocking to me that we wouldn't even know about this if Republicans would have lost the House in 2022. This corrupt system has been like this for decades. That is until Donald Trump pulled back the curtain and showed America all of it. And now the Americans have questions. Donald Trump's the one that got in there. He pulled the curtain back on these fools, and then these people went batshit crazy and pulled off their masks, and they came out right in the open and just started doing all their corrupt stuff out in the open out of disparity. They got desperate, and they came after Donald Trump, and we've seen exactly who they are. The spotlight is on them now. And now they want to sit there and call Republicans and conservatives domestic terrorists and white supremacists because we have questions about their corrupt behavior that they've been just blatantly doing out in the open. No, folks, no. And honestly, it's all about money. The money is the root of all of this. And so when they say just follow the money, they really mean it. If you follow the money, you will find corruption. And if you follow that money long enough, you will find the source of that corruption. And so one of the sources, I think, this war, this Russia-Ukraine war, which I think at this point we can just say we are at war with Russia. Okay, you guys remember how this all started? Oh, well, we're going to help Ukraine defend themselves against the invasion. And then now it's just full blown out war. We're sending cluster bombs now. They want F-16s. They've gone through, I don't know how many tanks. I had an article here that went through that. But one of the biggest things that I want to point out in today's episode is if the war in Ukraine isn't about democracy and freedom, what is it about? Did you ever think about that? Like, if this war isn't about democracy and freedom, exactly what is it about? Where is the source of corruption? Well, follow the money, folks. Follow the money. So I got an article here by Human Events. BlackRock, JP Morgan, to set up a reconstruction bank for Ukraine. Yep. All this is about money, ladies and gentlemen. Follow the money. And that's where you'll find your corruption. So BlackRock and JP Morgan Chase are reportedly aiding the Ukrainian government in setting up a reconstruction bank that could see rebuilding projects being heavily invested in by private entities. The Financial Times noted that it would cost Ukraine roughly, get this, $411 billion to rebuild their country amid the onslaught of attacks by Russia, but the cost is continuing to increase. $411 billion they're already saying they're going to need to rebuild Ukraine. This is what this is all about, folks. We essentially, with this war by Russia invading Ukraine, and I think America was one of the biggest provocateurs in this entire thing. You know, the United States is not innocent in this invasion of Ukraine. Okay? I am not pro-Russia. I am not pro-Ukraine. I am anti-war. I don't like people dying over stupid stuff. But you can most certainly guarantee your ass that the United States was the biggest provocateur of this war. And this is why. Money. The Ukraine Development Fund is still in the early stages of setting up the reconstruction bank, but potential investors will be getting an inside preview of how things will look during a London conference that is set to take place this week. With the steep cost to rebuild, the Ukrainian government reached out to BlackRock in November to see if there was a conceivable way of attracting investments. JP Morgan was soon added in February. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, I think a lot of people call him Vladimir, Volodymyr Zelensky, confirmed last month that he was working with the two financial institutions and consultants at the McKinsey, per the report. Philip Hildebrand, BlackRock vice chair, said, quote, "So many of today's long-term challenges are best addressed through the blended finance, and this is one. You need these vehicles to mobilize capital at scale." Though BlackRock and JP Morgan are offering their services, they will likely have the first look at potential investments in the Eastern European country. The report noted that the current development has only deepened JP Morgan's relationship with its long-standing client, Ukraine. The financial institution has helped Ukraine raise more than $25 billion in sovereign debt since 2010, and it led in the country's $20 billion debt reconstruction in 2022. BlackRock has claimed that Ukraine needs a, quote, development finance bank that would provide the country with infrastructure, climate, and agricultural opportunities. This will apparently make them more attractive to other long-term investors. JP Morgan was added to the venture due to its debt expertise. See, folks, that's what all this is about. All this is about money. So what's going to happen is these private investors are going to go into Ukraine, and then the United States taxpayer is going to start sending subsidies. We are going to start subsidizing these banks, just like we're bailing out banks now, just like we bailed out banks in 2008, just like we're always bailing out banks, bailing out big corporations, these places that are, quote, too big to fail. This is where our money's going to be going. And so this is why I think deep down inside, a majority of Americans, and I looked at a poll at this, it's not majority yet. The Ukraine war is still up in the air, believe it or not, with a lot of Americans. Some support it, half don't. I, for one, do not. I think it's ridiculous. And I think deep down inside, everyone else knows it's ridiculous too. because you have to ask yourself, okay, what is in it for the United States? Okay? Also, number 2, what is in it for these crooked politicians, these warmongers, these people that have been getting us into nonstop conflicts for 50 freaking years? It's all money. We benefit nothing. We get absolutely nothing out of this. Meanwhile, you have hundreds of thousands of people that are going to end up dead over a war so that JP Morgan and BlackRock, and I'm sure Vanguard and all the other ones, get rich. It is just like the movies, folks. You guys see those movies like Lord of War, or Warlord, I think is what it's called, and what's that movie called? War Dogs, or whatever the hell it's called. This happens in real life. Like, you have like scandals and where countries, you're doing corrupt. Look at the Bidens. The Bidens have been doing this corrupt stuff for the last 20 years. They are the original mobsters for the Ukrainian corruption and other government corruption, like Chinese government corruption. Why do you think they have 20, 30 LLCs with money flowing in and out of them so that it's untraceable? And they launder the money to all their family members. Like grandkids are getting millions of dollars now for the Bidens, and somehow the President of the United States knows nothing about any of this. Mind you, Hunter Biden was not charged with any kind of FARA violations. Now, how is that possible? When they just indicted this guy, what was his name? Guy Lust? Or Lunst, or whatever his name is? They charged him with FARA violations, but not Hunter Biden, even though they both worked at the same damn company at the same damn time. Hunter Biden and Jim Biden, Joe Biden's brother. How is it that this guy gets charged with FARA violations, but not Hunter Biden? Even though we know for a fact there was money exchanged from Ukraine into Hunter Biden's bank accounts, into the Biden bank accounts, period. Like, how is all this stuff just going poof out into the abyss, not to be seen by anybody? Like, how are we allowing this type of corruption to happen openly, in the open? I mean, that the Bidens are just airing out all their corruption in front of everybody, and we're supposed just to ignore it because Donald Trump sucks. Like, that's what all this is about. This all stems from Trump derangement syndrome. It is weird. It is bizarre. But all this is allowed because of the hatred for Donald Trump, because by admitting that the Bidens were corrupt, they would then have to admit that their vote for Biden was bad. Then they would therefore have to admit voting for Donald Trump would have been better. Like, this is why all this is happening. All of this is some fake fantasy, this fake reality that everybody's having to live in, this huge, ginormous confirmation bias, like this huge reality of denialism, where people are just denying everything. And the corruption in Ukraine is one of them. And so that's why I say, if you follow the money, you will find the corruption. And that's exactly what they're doing with the Bidens. And they know for a fact there's bank accounts. They have business. They have LLCs. They have the bank accounts, the routing numbers. They have the money where the businesses where the money was coming from. They have former business partners that are testifying. They have eyewitnesses. This guy Lunst, or whatever the hell his name is, this guy Luft that they just indicted, he actually worked with the Bidens personally. Now we can't take his word for it because obviously the guy's into some shady stuff, obviously, but that just goes to show you who the Bidens hang out with. That just goes to show you the company that the Bidens kept. These are awful, awful people. The Bidens are nothing that they tell you they are. These are very dirty, mob-like people. This is a mob family. The Biden family is a mob family. You guys heard the shakedown that Hunter Biden was telling that Chinese guy in that WhatsApp message. I'm standing here next to my father, and if you don't give me the money, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're going to have problems. And don't forget, I'm standing right next to the big guy here, and we don't want any problems, do we? Like, this is happening in real life. This is not some fiction novel. Like, this family is corrupted. And the head guy, the kingpin, the big guy, literally, that's what they called him, the big guy, is the president of the United States, the most powerful person in the world. And somehow we're supposed to just ignore all this corruption. Ignore all the charges Hunter Biden should have had with the tax evasion. The guy still hasn't paid taxes from 2014. I mean, how is this? They purposely passed up the statute of limitations on purpose. Nobody else gets this kind of treatment. Nobody. And certainly not the Trump family. So it just goes to show you the complete hypocrisy, the complete fake reality that they want everybody living in. And unfortunately, half of this country, well, at least supposedly 80 million people are willing to live in this fake reality, all because they don't want to admit that a vote for Joe Biden was a mistake and that Donald Trump was actually a better president. I'm telling you, man, they're in complete denial. And so you just have to follow the money and you'll find the corruption. BlackRock, Vanguard, these places are corrupt. And now they're trying to get subcontracts and trying to get banks over there in Ukraine so that the American taxpayer can start subsidizing the rebuilding of Ukraine. Because all of us want this war, and we should all want this war. We should all of us should have invested interest in war with Ukraine or war with Russia. All of us. We should be supportive of this. No, we're not. Because Americans know that there is massive corruption going on in Ukraine. We see it. And honestly, I think Ukraine is the key to all of the Biden scandals. That conversation that Joe Biden had on that stage when he was leveraging the $1 billion for that Ukrainian prosecutor to be fired that was investigating Burisma, I think that is the key to all of this. And I think in the end, when they finally get to the bottom of this, and they will, when they get to the bottom of this, you're going to find out that conversation that he had when he was bragging about leveraging taxpayer dollars for in aid, a quid pro quo, the same thing that they impeached Donald Trump over. Joe Biden does the same exact thing, but we're supposed to just ignore it. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, I think is the key to all of this. All of it. And so it's only going to get worse. Now that you are talking about these ginormous multi-trillion-dollar investment corporations building banks in Ukraine, I guarantee you, when they're already talking about, and they already have it calculated how much damage is going to be, how much money and damage is going to be in Ukraine, $411 billion. Oh, we're flipping that bill, baby. And so this is why I say no to cluster munitions, because on top of rebuilding, you're going to be having mine removal. You're going to be over there retrieving landmines and these cluster bombs for decades. That's going to cost billions of dollars. Billions. And I know that because we're doing it right now. We've been doing it for a long time. And in fact, I got an article right here. Where's it at? So I got an article here from July 11th, 2023. The U.S. spends millions worldwide to clean up widely banned bombs destined for Ukraine. The U.S. has spent hundreds of millions of dollars in recent years helping other countries clean up unexploded bombs, including the same type of controversial weapon that it now plans to send to Ukraine. So why does it matter? So President Biden's decision Friday to greenlight the transfer of widely banned cluster munitions to Ukraine in its ongoing fight against Russia has sparked humanitarian concerns, even among some in his own party. There are a lot of inconsistencies in the Biden administration's decision to send this type of weapon to Ukraine. Representative Jacqueline Castro, the Democrat from Texas, and member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, told Axios. The fact that you've got to spend millions and millions of dollars 50 years later to try to clean up the damage that was done back then, I think this should be a lesson enough for us to withhold this kind of weapon, he added. By the numbers, since 1993, the U.S. has spent more than $4.6 billion to help other countries clear out landmines and other unexploded ordnance, including cluster munitions, according to the State Department. During the 2022 fiscal year alone, the U.S. supported conventional weapons destruction activities in more than 65 countries and areas with more than $376 million. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. dropped roughly 270 million cluster bombs on Laos, up to 30% of which did not explode. The U.S. has now spent decades helping to fund the cleanup. This is why they want to go to war with Ukraine. I told my friend this today. He asked me, he wanted to know what was going on with Ukraine lately. And I told him, because he wanted to say, it's like they have everybody like on a guilt trip. Like you're supposed to support the Ukraine war or you're somehow a bad person. Like, I get both sides of the story. I get both sides of the argument. I understand. You know, a lot of people don't want to be in Ukraine because of the corruption in Ukraine. And I see why. This is why. Because you have massive amounts of money being corrupted. And it's our money. It's not their money. It's ours. And while our inflation is high, while we're paying ridiculous prices for everything, while our country is going in debt, Americans are going in debt, credit card debt is through the roof. So while we're going through all this turmoil, all these people are making millions and billions of dollars off of this conflict. Mind you, let's not even mention the hundreds of thousands of lives that are going to be lost at the end of this. Lives, real people, real families affected, death, destruction, men, women, children. Also, these people can make money. And this is how they do it. This is why, and this is exactly what I told my buddy. I said, dude, all this, nothing is what you think it is. This war is nothing to do about democracy and freedom. That is just what they try to convince the people. And they say these things so that when you deny it, when you say, oh, I don't support the Ukraine war, they can guilt trip you. So you can say, oh, you don't support freedom and democracy? What's the matter with you? The Republicans and conservatives fall for this shit all the time. All the time. We are so behind the Democrats when it comes to owning the narrative and owning the language. They have us calling AR-15s assault weapons now. Literally, when they argue on this topic, they call them assault weapons now. They're not assault weapons. But somehow now Republicans, it's out there now. Now the word is just concrete, it's cemented in, and it's just, now it's known for assault weapons. This is how good they are at it. And they do the same thing with this Ukraine conflict. They make you feel guilty for not wanting to defend freedom and democracy, even though deep down inside we all know that's a bunch of horse shit. This is not about freedom and democracy. Just like the war in Iraq wasn't about weapons of mass destruction, as we now know. And I guarantee you 10, 15 years down the road when this war's over, this isn't going to be about democracy and freedom either. It's going to be about something else, like U.S.-run biolabs that are in Ukraine, or nuclear centrifuge facilities in Ukraine. Like, this is what this is all about. And it is about money. It is about corruption. It is about stuffing the pockets. It is about politicians stuffing their pockets with money, and that is it. This has nothing to do with freedom and democracy. This is about places like Vanguard and BlackRock and government contractors and government think tanks and private contractors. All these people this is what they do to stuff their pockets, because war brings in money. Everybody knows that. Everybody has seen that in the movies. Everybody knows that to be the case when it comes to war. War brings money. And so this is why 6 months after Donald Trump left, after we were actually at peace, no new conflicts, no new wars, in 6 months we were wrapped up right into another conflict. That's how these people make money. We pay these people's light bills, like Raytheon, these weapons manufacturers, these weapons contractors. We pay to keep their lights on. And the only way they get money is if they're in war actually using their weapons. And so we are just hemorrhaging our stockpile. If you guys went and tried to buy ammo lately, stuff was insane. It was $40 for a box of 20 cartridges of 30-06. $40. And that's because of war. We're running out of ammo. The U.S. military is saying we are running out of ammunition. This is why they're sending cluster munitions, supposedly. I can't confirm that. But I've been reading we are sending cluster munitions because we're running out of ammo. We're running out of missiles. We're running out of bombs. All this on the brink of China quadrupling their military. They are preparing for war. And we're sitting here hemorrhaging our military, our ammo, our money, all for this Russia-Ukraine invasion. This is why. This is exactly why. It is because of places like BlackRock and Vanguard making millions, billions and billions of dollars. That's exactly what this is about. So I just wanted to share that with you. That was one of the subjects I wanted to get into. We got into the FISA thing and how that needs to be gone. No FISA warrants, no FISA courts, no secret judges, no secret prosecutors, none of that. It needs to go. And you got 1 million illegal warrants served to the American people. I would say, yeah, it needs to go. Spying on American people needs to go. So I got this last one, as if things could not be any worse right now. I have, and the reason why I picked this was because I came home today. Mind you, it's like 98 degrees in Florida right now. It is miserably hot. This week has been like one of those weeks all Floridians like regret. Like it really makes us question why we're here, but we really don't. Like we know deep down inside, like it's better than the snow. We live by the beach. Like we live in the best state in the country, I think. And so, but it's just like these days, 98 degrees. I think the day before that, the heat index was like 111 or 113 with the humidity. And so I came home today and one of my air conditioners is out. So it's weird how my house is set up. I have two zones in my house. And it's not like it's some huge house. It's just the way that it's set up. I think they did an addition to the house and they blew out the attic to put a upper level, to put a loft. And so when they did that, they added a smaller AC unit, a 2.5 ton. So I come home today, hot as hell, just got off of work. I mean, it is steaming outside. And then I go inside and it's 83 degrees inside the house. I'm like, no freaking way. There's not, trust me, and you probably know this too, there is nothing worse than coming from an outside that's 98 degrees and then coming inside and it's just nasty, hot, and muggy. And so my big AC wasn't working. My little AC broke. My 2.5 ton AC broke. And so I got to get that replaced. I just got my big AC replaced last year, which cost a fortune. It cost like, man, I can't even remember how much money. Like it costs so much money to have that AC replaced. The air handler, the AC, the labor, all of that. A small fortune. And so I was scrolling through the news and I seen this today. So the Biden regime is to crack down on air conditioning to fight global warming. This will cut HFC consumption by 40% in next 4 years. Get ready to boil. So I got an article from the Gateway Pundit. The Biden regime announced their plans this week to crack down on air conditioning to fight global warming. The regime wants to reduce hydrofluorocarbons, HFC, by 40% by 2028. HFC is the chemical used for refrigeration and to keep your house cool in the summer. But don't worry, there's always ice fans. Oh, God, this administration sucks, man. Everything, I can't think of a more annoying, I can't think of more annoying things than the things that this administration does. Like your gas stoves, vaccine mandates, mask mandates. Now you're taking air conditioners, the gas prices. The reason why they do the gas prices, one of their biggest drivers behind that is they wanted to push people to buy electric cars. And it kind of somewhat worked, but it hasn't now, because now there's a surplus of electric cars. There's like 270,000 electric cars out there waiting to be sold and nobody's buying them. But this is what this administration does. It bans the most ridiculous stuff that just make people's lives miserable. Like a toilet flushing. You guys remember when Donald Trump came in and he said, you guys are getting your toilets back. Now you're going to be able to flush your toilet. That's because the EPA had like a water consumption policy where a toilet could only use like a half a gallon and had to use air for the rest. And so people's toilets weren't working right. People's dishwashers, they're coming after the dishwashers next. Now dishwashers are only allowed to consume like 25% of the water it normally does. Well, guess what? The dishes aren't going to get cleaned. So guess what happens then? You're hand washing your dishes using more water than you would if you just left the damn dishwasher alone. And so this is this constant cycle we're witnessing with this climate change agenda. They're not solutions to the problem. They're just variables that are added to make the problem more complicated. That is all that this climate change stuff is doing. So as this climate change starts turning into a religion, for most people, for these climate change Zionists, it's making people's lives miserable. And in the end, it would have been better just to leave it alone. And so I'm going to get into this a little bit deeper tomorrow, but I wanted to end the show off with this because it was relevant to me, because I was, obviously I have to look for a new air conditioner unit, and then now this. Now I got to worry about, now the quote I got last year for the unit's probably going to be like quadruple now, because they're trying to get rid of these hydrofluorocarbons. So it's like, I mean, really? Let's make everybody's life even more miserable. Let's make everybody's shit more expensive. I mean, is there really anything worse that this administration could do? Think about it. Has there been one thing, just one, and I ask this question all the time, has there been just one thing that this administration has done to better anybody's life? I can't think of one. Honestly, I can't. I try. I read. Some people will point to prescription medications, but that doesn't kick in till 2026. And even when that happens, all that's going to mean is less medication for other people that pay. And so they're going to have to ration medication. So everything that they do just makes things worse. And this climate change stuff is no different. So what's going to happen is now that hydrofluorocarbons are going to be reduced by 40%, people are going to have to be running their air conditioners for longer. So hydrofluorocarbon is a category of greenhouse gases used for a refrigerant in air conditioning as well as in a number of other applications, but it is linked to global warming. The final rule announced Tuesday by the Environmental Protection Agency will reduce HFC consumption in the United States based on historic levels by 40% between 2024 and 2028. So look, if you need an air conditioner unit, you better get it now, because these things are probably going to quadruple. The reduction will be on top of the 10% drop in HFC consumption that was implemented in 2022 under the bipartisan 2020 American Innovation and Manufacturing Act that sets the goal to reduce the production and consumption by 85% by 2036 in an effort to prevent a 0.5 degrees Celsius increase in global temperature by the next century. Let me repeat that. In an effort to prevent a 0.5 degrees Celsius increase in global temperature by the next century. This is lunacy. This stuff is so asinine. For a half a degree that we don't know. How can these people can't even predict the weather a week out? And they want to sit there and say by doing this, putting everybody through misery and stopping the consumption of fluorocarbons by 2036, it's going to reduce the temperature of the globe by a half a degree? Like, how the hell? And what the hell are we doing here? So like I said, everything they do when it comes to this climate change stuff they are not solutions. They are just variables added to the problem, making the problem more complicated. We are fine, ladies and gentlemen. We are on a path to energy efficiency already, naturally. Allowing the natural innovation of technology to flow freely is going to get us to our goal faster than forcing innovation. Because when you force innovation, you make things worse. Because, like the solar panels, how many non-renewable resources are they using to make solar panels? Between all the lithium for the batteries, because they got to store it, all the manufacturing of the power grid that needs to go up, like massive resources being used for solar panels. For a half a degree in global temperature, they think, in the next century? They act like these people can never be wrong. They act like the science has never been wrong. There's no debate here. The science is settled, and now we need to move on. Like, no. And this is what makes this administration so damaging to Americans. This is what makes this administration so much damaging to the entire country. So damaging to everything. Just constantly bending the knee to this climate religion. This has turned into a religion, ladies and gentlemen, into a religion. These people no longer worship God. They worship Mother Earth. They've replaced God with Mother Earth. They've replaced religion with climate change. And so they worship climate change. They worship the earth. Look, there's nothing wrong with saving the planet. I think everybody wants to take care of the planet that they live on. Everybody. But there's right ways of doing things and wrong ways of doing things. And so far, I don't think Like, have these people been right in anything when it comes to this climate change stuff? I don't think so. You have whales dying in the oceans because of these windmill farms out in the water. Whales washing up on the beach by the dozens. Massive whales being washed up on the beaches by the dozens, and they don't know why. They don't know why. And what's going to happen is they're going to try and hide it because the green energy sector is not going to want any kind of issues or permits being pulled. So they're going to hide all this stuff. Therefore, they're not going to figure out why the whales are dying. And so whales are going to go extinct because of the windmill farms they put out in the ocean to solve the energy problem or solve a energy problem. We don't have an energy problem, folks. Like, we don't have an energy problem. We have a government problem. We have a regulation problem. We don't have an energy problem. If they would just allow the natural innovation of technology and energy efficiency, we would well be on our way. Our cars are more and more efficient every single year. Your car now gets better gas mileage than it did 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 4 years ago. Every single year, the cars get better and better gas mileage. So, and that's happened naturally. It's not like it was, these aren't government-made vehicles. These things happen naturally because it's capitalism. The market, they know that cars use gas. Gas is expensive. And so people want to buy a car that uses less gas. Therefore, the manufacturers are incentivized to make a vehicle that uses less gas, so therefore they sell more cars. There's a system already. And so forcing this innovation, forcing this lunacy it's extremely damaging, it's counterproductive, and it's going to do nothing but make things worse. And it already is. I've done plenty of episodes talking about the amount of damage, mining these materials for lithium batteries and solar panels. So it's nonsense. And the worst thing is there's no debate about this. It's just like the science is settled. We're done with this conversation. This is the route we're going. Now give us your money. And it's disgusting, man. It's ridiculous. It's kind of sad. It's kind of terrifying. Like, there's a lot of emotions that go into play when you have a government that is just running roughshod over the American people. When a government pushes an agenda, it is usually 99.9% of the time a bad thing. It ends up in a very bad way. It ends in a very bad way. So this is no different. And you could see the writing on the wall with this stuff. It's not like you have no idea what's going to happen. These people can't even predict the weather a week out, and yet they want to sit there and say that they'll change the world's temperature by a half degree in 150 years by just making air conditioners smaller or use less hydrofluorocarbons or R34-1A or whatever the hell the refrigerant's called. Like, this is lunacy. This is insanity. Mind you, all these studies are funded by the government. All these studies are funded by the green energy sector. And so, of course, a solar panel company is going to pay for a study that shows that solar panels are better than windmills, right? I mean, would a solar panel company want to have a study that says solar panels are bad? No, of course not. And so they're going to pay for a study by a college, university, or whatever it is. And if that study comes out and says, oh, well, solar panels are actually not energy efficient in the end, and they're actually quite bad for the environment, do you think they're really going to allow that study out to the public? Of course not. And so this is what we're dealing with. And all of it, ladies and gentlemen, the theme of today's show is follow the money. Where the money goes, the corruption will follow. And so that's all I got for today's show. I know this went on a little bit longer. I think I got a little tied up in the cocaine. You know, three times they found drugs in the White House, and now they're not even going to release any of the footage or any of the probe is done. The investigation's done, folks. So nothing to see here. It's just ridiculous. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I got for today's show. Thank you for tuning in. As always, you can get a hold of me at StephenTaurielloShow@gmail.com. I did reach out to John Strand from the J6 prisoner. I reached out to him, and hopefully he gets back with me so we can interview him. I want to get his word out there. This man's story needs to be etched in the history books, ladies and gentlemen. What they're doing to these people is absolutely awful on so many levels. So many levels. And so I think it's a real opportunity for everybody to hear what this guy has to say. And I will give him the floor. I'll let him talk for as long as he wants. He deserves it. And whatever I told him whatever he wants to talk about, he can. And so we'll see how it goes. If he responds back and wants to do the show, we'll go for it. So hopefully that's soon. So that's something to look forward to. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for tuning in. And if you could, I'd really appreciate it if you shared the show with your friends and family. That really helps get the show out there on the map. It helps get the show through the algorithm. They don't share shows like this. Trust me, when we start talking about COVID and vaccines, once you say those trigger words, ding, it gets red flagged, and it is not going to be pushed through the algorithm. So if you could, sharing the show with your friends and family definitely helps. Make little clips of the show, put them on TikTok. That's what I've been doing. I'll take nice little nuggets from the show. I'll clip them up in like 1 minute segments, like a 1 minute segment, and I'll put it out on TikTok. And people seem to like it. And I try and do the important parts of the show as much as I can in a minute. It's kind of hard to do. So, but yeah, do stuff like that. Get the word out there, folks. Get the word out there. I don't ask for any money. I'm not doing this for the money. That's not why we're here. I don't do any kind of advertisements. I'm not trying to sell you any pillows or slippers or anything. My main goal is just to get the people informed, because informed people make good decisions. If we just inform people with the truth and the reality of what's going on in this country, then I think people would obviously, they're going to make better decisions next time. And so in 2 years, maybe we could change the course the course of direction this country's going in, because right now it's not good. So it really helps if you share the show and just kind of clip it up, share it on any platform. And you could find the show on any platform. Tell your friends and family. They would also, if they would follow the show on Rumble, on YouTube, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If they could just hit the follow button, that really helps too. That auto download. So you have my show every single time I put one out automatically. You don't have to search for the show or nothing. So, and that really helps us out too. That helps the show out. We got to get the word out there, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're here for. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. And I want you guys to have a good day. Have a great week. God bless you. And God bless America. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.